Okay, I'm live now.
Okay, welcome to the Node.js Community Technical Steering Committee meeting for September the 20th, 2017. So far, we have in attendance Anna Henneson, Chalker, Con Herrig, Jeremiah Simpico, Joy Chung, Matteo Colina, Michael Dawson, myself, and Michael Zasso. And just joined Rich Trott as well. So going through the agenda, are there any announcements to start out with? No. Okay, so let's move on. Review of the previous meeting. I can open up the previous meeting minutes for that. Before we do that, I did want to take a poll. Do people think going through the previous meeting is useful? Silence. Yeah. Okay. Rich chimes in. He's okay with skipping it. So does Anna. Mateo. Yeah, I'm thinking we just take it off the agenda completely, as it's. I don't know that it adds a huge amount of value and just takes up more time. And when we have a packed schedule, it doesn't make sense. And otherwise, so it seems like we're in agreement with that. So let's try doing that for now. I'm just going to remove it from the agenda as opposed to going through. So we can move on to tagged issues. So the first one is regular working group status updates in the TSC meetings. This is issue 352. I'm just opening that one up. So this is basically a proposal that we add a section to the agenda to discuss basically have working groups come and discuss some of the what's going on in those working groups. Maybe bring up key issues and give us a discussion for place for discussion. Some of the concern was that maybe if we had all the working groups, 1 to 2 minutes per working group would not give them a lot of time and still take possibly a fair amount of time. If we give a longer time, it could end up taking a big chunk of the agenda. So what I'd suggested is maybe we put on a time and rotate the working groups to give us a short update. So each meeting, we could choose 1 or 2 working groups. I don't know what people think of that idea in terms of adding that to our regular agenda.
Seems like it might be good to try it at least.
Rich is mentioning that Miles and James are big advocates. I think that's true. I also think it's a good idea. I think sort of bringing out if there's any bigger issues or forward-looking things that this team could help with would be good. So I'm in favor of definitely trying it out for a certain amount of time. I'd kind of say, like, unless we have any objections here, why don't we put it on the agenda? We can see how it goes, and obviously we can take it out if it turns out we don't really want to do that after all. Okay, so I'm not hearing objections. I see in the chat a fair amount of +1s. So let's. We do already have a GitHub issue which is discussing that. That's 352. So I'd say, and I don't think there's been too much objections there. So I'd basically say, why don't we put it on the agenda for next time, and we'll start to see how it goes. If anybody does object to that, just chime into 352. But I think unless somebody objects, let's do it going forward, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, the next issue. This is issue 347, which is to authorize an expenditure of $535 US for a Microsoft Authenticode signing certificate. Just opening that one up. I know it was Rod who opened it, and Rod added the label. I think the main point of discussion here is the how long we go for the signing certificate. It sounds like we have an option of 1, 2, or 3 years. Rod's suggesting 3 years because it sounds like at some point they're going to change it so that you actually have to get you have to get you're going to have to get a USB key which will make things more difficult for us. So going for 3 years to sort of avoid that hassle in the short term makes sense. So looking in the issue, I only see people agreeing. So I think it's on the agenda to raise the awareness. I don't know if anybody has any comments on choosing the length that we should discuss here. Sounds no. I mean, maybe should, basically, can people who are here chime into that issue here? I can even paste it into the thing here just to basically say +1 so that I think we can, I don't think we need a vote or anything, but it's basically to, make sure everybody's comfortable with the 3 years and we can just go ahead. So chime in there if there are any comments. Okay, I guess moving on to the next issue then, we have issue 278. That's the one that I raised, which is candidate areas for the TSC and community committee. I think I touched on it last week, was looking for input. And I guess the question is, how we make some progress on that. There hasn't been a lot of input. I guess maybe I need to think a little bit more about that and figure out, some suggestions, concrete suggestions in terms of what we should do on that front. I'm just going to add a comment in there. And for now, I'm going to take the TSC agenda off. Oops. Okay, the next issue was issue 33 in the security working group. And this is a proposal around our CVE handling. And the proposal was that we act as our own CNA. In the issue, it talks about the pros and cons. And, last week we talked a bit about it and agreed to take it back to GitHub and talk about it again this week in terms of, discussing if there were concerns over the extra effort that it would take and so forth. So has anybody got any more input on that front?
It doesn't look like anything happened on GitHub or a week.
Yeah, I don't see any, right, there wasn't any discussion there. So I don't know whether that means there's no objections or just nobody has commented yet.
I couldn't understand what Chalker said back over perhaps Michael's mic.
Chalker, do you want to repeat yourself?
I said that I don't think that there was any comments on this on GitHub during the last week, since the last discussion that we had on this.
Right. So I guess is it that people need more time to jump in and discuss, or is it that there aren't any objections, or?
I would guess that most people just don't want to do this work. So I think, I mean, that's the major sort of things that were brought up that weren't in favor of it. But I think for some time, Michael Dawson and Sam are putting their hands up to do it.
Yep. Right. So Anne is commenting that she's not familiar enough with the process to comment on it. I can try filling in a little bit on that front. There's basically a document that says what you need to do. It's not terribly complicated. The discussion I had with the representative from MITRE is basically, at the beginning of the year, they're going to give us a block of CVEs. Based on how many we needed the previous year. So for example, if we use 10 CVEs the previous year, maybe they'll give us 15 or something just to be safe. We then can assign those CVEs ourselves. And, once we assign them and use them, we need to complete the information just as if we were not a CVE. The advantage is we don't go to them and get the CVE. We already have them, so we can use it. Once we use it, though, then there's a form. They're also working on a JSON API, which isn't available yet, but should be in the future. We then publish some data to them about the CVE, which is what goes public. So basically, when we're ready to go public, we submit that. That information is relatively light and generally just points back to our security announcement in the security mailing list, the Google security mailing list. So it has a little bit of information, points back to there for details. And the only additional thing is that, well, two additional things. Quarterly, there's some sort of reporting requirements, which it doesn't sound like there would be very much to report. It's basically, I think, how many CVs there were. And, the document doesn't outline the reporting requirements in detail, but I think going through it once or twice, we'd understand what they are. And, Dan at MITRE assured me it was not very much. The other thing that could happen that would require some work on our side is that if somebody raises a CVE and they choose not to submit it through our reporting process, but goes to MITRE, they would actually redirect them to us as the CNA, and we would be able to look at it and say, do we believe this is a node CVE or not? Like, do we believe it's a vulnerability? If it's like an as designed, we'll have the ability to say, sorry, this isn't a CVE, we're not going to issue one. Or if it is, a vulnerability, then we can say, yeah, okay, thanks, we're going to issue a CVE and go forward. It basically, in that sense, makes sure that CVEs don't get issued on Node without, us being involved in the loop. And I think that's...
So
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, all of that makes pretty much sense to me. And well, I didn't mean that the problem is that I don't understand what was laid out in the issue. I mean, Thank you for explaining it. This was helpful to have a short recap of everything.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't know, how many of us do actually watch what CVEs get issues for something, or even have a feeling for what the potential downsides would be, or
Yeah.
It's I mean, as long as there are no objections, and as long as the people like you and Sam and everybody else who was actually involved feel this is a good idea, I would say we should go with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things we try out. If there turn out to be downsides we didn't know about, we can change our mind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's worth trying out because it does give us a little bit more of the flow control, and I don't think it's going to be too much work. But yeah, okay, I take your point that yes, it's not something that many people are sort of involved in the loop to even be able to sort of know what to think there. Okay, so I guess, you know, if the idea is, so why don't I say that I'm going to post that into the issue that basically says, you know, unless there's any objections here, we can say that, you know, there weren't any objections, and, you know, we'll go forward with this unless somebody, you know, posts some objections in the issues in the next week or so. That seem like a reasonable way to go forward?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll do that. That's 33. That was actually all the issues on the agenda. I should have asked at the beginning, were there any issues that people wanted to add to the agenda? Rich is just asking a question about 355. Let me just take a quick look. That is.
Yeah, I think it was taken off at the status of last week, but we have a good amount of essentially GitHub voting, so maybe we can discuss it briefly.
Yes, I think that one actually Matteo asked to, or suggested that we remove. And I think it was just like, let's let the vote complete.
Yes. That's my point. Let's everybody, like, if there is any people that have questions or they need to make up an idea or whatever, then I'm very happy to talk about this. My only point is let's wait for everybody to come for the vote to come to a conclusion, because that's the only like sensible course of action at this point.
Right. So I guess, yeah, I can, you know, Rich did a nice summary, well, actually just 3 minutes ago on the update. So we have a number of people who voted, and we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people to vote. And I guess, Rich, I don't see, do we need a certain number of people to vote or abstain to push us over the threshold for closing the vote?
Yes, we need at least 3 more votes at this time.
Okay. So I guess that's a call.
The only person on this call who hasn't either voted or abstained, I believe, is Matteo.
Oh, should I? Do I get to vote? I didn't know. Like, sorry.
Sure,
you can choose to abstain if you think it's appropriate that you abstain, or if you don't, you know. But
I'll postpone my vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but I see, Rich, you have like added all the people who need to vote, so that's probably pretty much all we can do at this point, right?
No, I agree with it. I agree with the approach. I will. Yeah, let me vote. So.
Here, let me grab the issue. I have the issue open here. And I'm gonna, while we do about that, I'm gonna actually just add it in to the minutes to say we talked a bit about this.
I'm updating your issue, Rich.
Sorry, what was that, Matteo?
I'll update my comment, Matteo.
Yeah, I am updating your comment.
Sorry, I'm just now putting that issue into the discussion here. Why it's giving me crazy big fonts, I don't know, but I see. Okay. Okay. So any other business we should add to the agenda?
I think we should note that the planning for the Collaborator Summit is ongoing.
Okay.
So if you have something to say or anything, it would be useful chiming into that issue.
Right. Last I saw, I think there was sort of just an outline of, some session, like not sessions, but time flow.
Yeah.
And some discussion of like some suggestions of potential topics, but then also the suggestion we kind of leave it as an unconference where we schedule it when we're there.
Yes, but for example, there is in the current plan, there is the fact that every working group should present something.
Right.
You're a working group and you are not represented here. And if one of you is coming, you should probably do that.
Right. Any feeling for how formal that needs to be?
Oh, I think it can be pretty informal, but like having a couple of slides might be helpful, might be nice.
Right. I'm just sort of, musing in my head, like whether I need to actually prepare something or I can show up and use some of the slides, some of the pages that we have, say for the benchmarking work group, and just walk people through what's been going on.
Yeah. That's one of the questions that I have as well. So, those are what I'm saying is let's, given that it's in a couple of weeks away, it's probably good if people start preparing.
Okay, people. I think I don't know who's sort of organizing that. My one suggestion might be like basically saying, hey, work group, you should do something. I don't know if that's going to result in any one person figuring they're the one who's going to do it.
Yes, I agree.
Right? Like, if I say, hey, build work group, do something, there's like 5 or 6 different people who might do something. So it might be better to try and, if somebody's trying to organize that session to try and post an issue in the working group and ask for a volunteer to actually do that.
Yes, well, all of this needs to be like, there needs to be a process or something like that. Like,
yeah.
Somebody needs to own opening those issues. That's the only thing I'm bringing up. You can be the chair, the MCs and so on. I'm just flagging it now because it passed through my right now. Like I can open up an issue and on the summit breaker.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like even if you open it in the summit, that doesn't necessarily get maybe open an issue to discuss how to pull it together, because doing things like then posting an issue in each of the working groups that we want somebody to come and talk would be good to at least get somebody to stand up and say, yeah, hey, I'm going to do that. Okay, anything else to talk about on that front? I'll take that as a no. So Jeremiah, any questions on the live stream?
No, although I did solicit for them.
Okay, so no questions. Now I can see that Targos has added an issue that maybe we should discuss to the agenda here, so which is 1546.
I don't know that it needs discussion. It's pretty recent.
No. Okay. So
okay, well, let's ask Michael.
Yeah, he's actually doesn't have a mic. I think he mentioned earlier, but yeah, if you can, Michael, if you can in the chat, give us an idea there. Okay, so he says we don't have to discuss now, but I guess it's certainly on the radar. It's breaking NPM. Okay, so it sounds like if there's no questions, our upcoming meeting is on the calendar. I believe it's next Wednesday, and it should be let me open that up to be sure. Oh, excuse me. Next week, which is going to be the 27th. It looks to me like it's it's at 1 p.m. Eastern, which will be 5 p.m. UTC. So unless there's anything else people want to discuss, I guess we'll talk to you then. Okay. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.